Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all the ages, it is Aussieverse, and we are back, and we are here to rock and roll tonight because it is all about IPI Comics. I am Omnibo, joined by the sheriff around these parts, the Sharif, and single issue Steve. And down below, you will see our guests for tonight. We have Gerry and Chris from IPI Comics. Guys, how are you going tonight?
Very, very good. Thank you.
Very good, fellas. Yep, really good. And thank you very much for having us on.
We are thrilled to have you guys on. We have seen you in our FOC weeklies when you have certain projects being released, like the one you have right now on the pre-order that if you want to get it, you need to buy it by this Sunday while it's at that pre-order price. What is the book that I'm talking about, fellas?
Which one are you talking about? Which one's the current one, Gerry?
Hi, man.
We produce once a month, and believe it or not, we work several months ahead of the FOC, so it sort of gets a bit blurry. Could it be Moon Goddess 2, or could it possibly be Dark Detective?
So it's Dark Detective 7, isn't it?
No, I'm talking about the Human Fly Terror Tour trade paperback.
The trade paperback, yes, the trade paperback.
That's the one I'm talking about because we have a lot of collected edition fans in this audience and people that love collected editions just like us three. So as soon as we see the word trade paperback or hardcover attached to the words Human Fly, you know that we need to buy that stuff right now.
But what about single issue Steve? His very name says he's the single issue guy.
Ironically, Chris, I don't collect single issues. It was just something that rhymed with Steve.
Okay. Actually, something really exciting about the Human Fly is that at the last minute, our printer said, this would look so much better if we use UV spotting on the cover. And so it's got this big red mask that's totally UV spotted. You can't see that on the FOC, but that is UV spotted. And you could see it a mile away on the stands.
I like it a lot. Cool. Here you go. The wildest superhero of all because he's real. He rocks the 70s and he's back in an all-new death-defying shows, running a secret campaign for justice and charity. See new partner Mercury, new enemy masked terrorist, fire sword, and a secret centuries-old legacy behind him. This collects issues 0 to 4. Go support local comics now. Pick up the Human Fly this week on pre-order. Our sponsors, Comic Bookaroo.
You know, these two will definitely be the best people to answer Steve's question last night. Is it Fire Sword or Fire's Word?
Very good. Very good. As the baddies and his henchmen like to chant in the story, for the fire, for the sword. So, and they've got tattoos on their arms of flaming swords, just in case. So, good pick up.
By the way, just to listeners and viewers. Chris has got a mask on because he's part way through some surgery. It's not because he's trying to emulate the Human Fly in any way.
Exactly. or emulate Fire Sword.
Thank you for clearing that up because I was going to say that's a pretty weak cosplay, Chris. Like, I appreciate it.
I know.
We do want to give a shout out to our 4 lifers. These are our paid members that do contribute to Aussieverse each and every week. If you want to be a 4 lifer, that gets you a few little perks that you may be interested in. And if that's not something that you want to do, but you do want to support Aussieverse, the best way to do that is by subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, sharing and commenting, and all of that YouTube algorithm stuff. Thank you very much.
Now, I see the name Ben Sullivan there.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Ben Sullivan.
Is that the same guy who's the artist?
That
Yes.
is the guy. That is the Picasso. Yes, that is correct.
He's doing a series for us.
Oh, amazing.
Really?
He's doing a very, very cool series written by two top-of-the-line American writers, Nancy Holder and Alan Phillipson. It's a very twisted take on, I'll just say, gangsters and the supernatural, called Midnight. Or they call me Midnight, and that'll be, Ben's already into that at the moment. And yeah, we think that's going to be pretty amazing.
Anything Ben does, I buy instantly. I had a running joke with Ben where when I was going to, I paid for the Senation Comics. Look Senation Comics up. I backed their Kickstarter Gods Among Men, and I got Ben's original artwork. And I said, as soon as I get it, I'm going to color it all in. So on my birthday, he ended up coming over and giving me this massive poster of his artwork and said, "Don't color that one in, color this one in." And I went,
"Wow,
that's awesome. Thank you very much."
That is very, very cool. He's a lovely fellow as well.
Yes.
He is.
We're proud to have him as part of the Aussieverse family, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because that means we've got sort of a tie-in to you guys from another direction now. But Ben is, Nancy Holder and Mr. Phillipson, they very fussy about their artists. They need to have, they want that marriage to be perfect with their scripting. And Nancy's got a huge reputation. I think she wrote most of the novelizations of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? I mean, she's been around, right? And Ben was the anointed son.
Okay.
That's very cool.
Well, before we do go into the Kickstarter and the reason why we're here, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is, how is such an amazing Australian creators that have been around for so long only coming on Aussieverse now after so long? Where the hell have you guys been?
We've been busy. We've been very busy. I mean, we started publishing comics in March last year. Our first titles hit the shelves internationally in March last year. But Gerry's book publishing company, for which I'd done several books for before, that's been now around for about 15 years. But we just kicked off the comics last year. So IPI Comics is a division of a larger thing, and that's where the IPI comes from. Gerry's company is called IFWG Publishing International. And I think the IFWG was that Internet Fantasy.
Originally, it was the International Fantasy Writers Guild. It was a thing we used to call it. But then we decided, we'll just forget about the meaning of the letters. We'll just put them together, because if you look on the internet, there's this International Funeral Workers Guild as well. We didn't want to be in any way involved with them. Just thought I'd throw that in.
So we've been doing the comics since March last year, but Gerry's published many anthologies and novels by writers from all around the world. Again, internationally, the stuff that he was doing goes physical copies in the bookstores around the world. We're not another one of these digital-only outfits. There's nothing wrong with them, but we've always been digital and brick-and-mortar bookstores. And then March last year, after about a year of hassling and going overseas to meet with distributors face-to-face, we got not one, but we got 2 comics distribution contracts. One with Diamond, and Diamond, of course, now not so good, and the other one with the main competitor, Luna. So we've temporarily, or to be determined, ceased distributing through Diamond while they try and get themselves out of the troubles they're in. And we're just going through Luna. We may expand. There's a couple of other new distributors around, but we've got the main one. Now, the majority of comic book shops are getting all their stuff from Luna. And we're still with Luna.
Just to add a little bit of colour to what Chris has said, and Chris described it well, both Chris and I, we're comics people, graphic novels people for years. And we both, in our heads, before we talked to each other a lot about it, wanted to break into that field. I mean, as a publisher, I know the books, comics trade from the mechanic side. I didn't know at the time much. Chris did know a lot about it. I knew that. I mean, Chris has been in the business for a long, long time. And, even at the time when we were publishing our first comics, he had already released another comic through, script through IDW. And at some point, I forget exactly when, it was about early 23 or something, I said to Chris, I'm willing to go into the comics business, but I can only do that if I got a right-hand person with me who knows the ins and outs of a lot of the elements of the business that I'm not familiar with. The connections, the networks, that sort of stuff, editorial capability, that sort of thing. And Chris said to me, well, that's a coincidence, because I was about to approach you about possibly starting a comic wing with you about this. And so we were both thinking the same thing, and we just sort of like accidentally had that conversation. And but we went into this eyes wide open. It's a very strange business. It's almost the opposite, the inverse of book trade. In the book trade, you do spend a fair bit of money getting the production going, but at the end of the day, most of your money is being spent in printing and the distribution and marketing side. In comics, it's the inverse. The printing, as expensive as it is cheap compared to paying the right money to the right artists, etc., etc. And so it's the opposite. But I learned a heap, and I think even Chris himself has learned a heap about the industry. But we eyes wide open, and we said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to line up these ducks correctly. So we went to the US. We talked to Diamond reps. We even talked to the managing director of Luna, Christina Merkler, who's a fantastic person. And I can't tell you how I cannot in any way overstate how good Luna is with their publishers. We signed on the dotted line, did this. And then we also got Transcontinental as our printer in Montreal. Transcontinental is one of the best. They exclusively print DC. Right. I mean, and they're, by the way, amazing people too. But I mean, it was a long story. So when we talk about our first comic coming out in March last year, that's not when we started the comic business. There was about a year and a half leading up to that. All sorts of shit. Right.
Yeah. Well, the Human Fly has been around for a lot longer, though, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
The Human Fly has been around since about 1977 as a real-life Canadian stuntman. I'm going to see if I can get away with like about 15 seconds of copyright challenge here. Do you reckon I can do 10 or 15 seconds from that Marvel clip?
Oh, yeah, you want me to show that video?
Yeah, just the first 10 or 15, you will see Stan Lee, Archie Goodwin, and you'll see a photograph of the real-life human fly. This was probably done in 1977.
Ended up winning. These the shots for the human fly?
Right. These are the character sketches I have John Romita work up.
Great. Now this is the way he really is.
This is it in real life, and this is the way Johnny's tried to glamorize it a bit,
Great.
tightening the costume.
Yeah. We took off the cape, huh?
Watch closely, because The Human Fly, a new Marvel comic, is about to be created before your very eyes. Stan Lee, the elder statesman on the right, and Archie Goodwin are working out the shtick.
Who may possibly be the human fly.
Yeah. These, this is the pilot, the TV reporter. Let's see, we'll put this with this one. These are the characters who are going to be the candidates for herodom, if we can find out which one is the real human fly, right?
Wow.
I like the pilot very much. Yeah, she's a black girl. That's good.
Stan Lee knows the importance of characters and shtick. A pioneer of
So-
modern comics.
And that's about all. That's about all that talks about the fly. But we discovered this a couple of days ago, and it blew our minds that this thing was around. And it's a very nice, quick snapshot of what happened. There was a real-life Canadian stuntman, masked, didn't give his name out, called the Human Fly, and his thing was, I'm going to out-Knievel Evil Knievel. And I'm going to do bigger and crazier and more dangerous stunts. And he started to do these. And his owners talked to Marvel, and Marvel said, we want to do a comic. And they started getting to work on it. So he was around for about 18 months, and the Marvel comic went for 19 monthly issues. And I remember when I was a little kid watching on the TV news in Sydney, there was a famous stunt he did, and he nearly got killed in it at Montreal Stadium. He was using a rocket-powered bike to jump the world record number of buses, which was a Knievel thing. And he added about 10 more or something, and he didn't make it, and the bike went out of control, and he nearly got killed. And I remember seeing it on the news, and I was freaking out. I was going, that comic I'm buying, that's the guy in the comic. Yeah. So, so it's a character that has never left my mind, and I reached out to the people who were temporarily had the rights to the character, who I'd heard were making a movie. And this was years ago, before Gerry and I did the comics thing. And I said, do you ever want to do a comic? And I'll try and make a long story short. They did a one-shot with a guy in Los Angeles editing it, and it didn't really capture what they wanted to do. And they said to me, basically, look, that didn't work out, but we're going to keep you in line, Chris. Keep talking to us. Keep coming back to us. We're trying to get the Human Fly biopic movie done. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. But keep talking to us. Now, for Aussies, the one shot that they did put out, Aussie Paul Mason's got a story in there. It's hard to find. It's a black and white thing. And to be honest, Paul singers out anything that's any good in it. But so Paul drew a story that one of the Human Fly guys, Tony Babinski, who's the guru of all things fly, he wrote. It's a cool story. Anyway, when we set up IPI Comics, I touched base with the Fly guys and said, have you had any luck finding a comics publisher yet? And they said, no. I said, do you want to talk to my boss, Gerry Huntman? And they said, yeah, we'll have a conversation. And it evolved from there. And you could probably give your perspective on it, Gerry.
Oh, yeah. yeah, I mean, yeah, and also we had the pleasure of meeting them. We went to San Diego Comic Con a couple of years ago, and that was sort of where we just really tied it all up and talked to each other. And it's amazing how much more insightfulness you can get when you have a few extra beers behind it. But I mean, when you take on a franchise, and it's taking on a franchise, you're not just producing a comic, you're paying franchise fees as well.
Yeah, right.
So it's an investment, right? You got to have a business case behind it, and so we built a business case and had a good look at what we thought would be the sort of costs involved to produce, and also determine the hardest part, of course, is how much money, how many copies are we going to sell, and we knew it was going to be a tough one because we're a new kid on the block, and it takes years. It takes years to build up clientele and sales, but we're willing to take a bit of a risk with it, and we did the first 5 issues, late 24 and early this year, and they turned out freaking amazing. I mean, we got the right talent, the right writers. Chris wrote a lot of it, and also Jason Franks did his bit on it as well, his layer over it. And the Fly guys, we call them the Fly guys, Tony Babinski and Alan Brewer, who are the franchise owners, they were pretty happy with it too. However, we always felt that the Human Fly needed to be built up in more than one dimension. I mean, you don't get a character from 1977 and keep it 1977 quality. You just don't, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you when you look at something from 1977, you look at it from a nostalgia point of view. And don't get me wrong, there was some brilliant stuff and a little bit of nostalgia involved with it, but we wanted to build it up to a current day sort of readership. Yeah, and and of course the printing quality is tremendously better too. I mean, we use this, like I said, exactly the same paper, ink, you name it, as DC, right? So we got the quality. So that was one dimension, and we did some really good stuff. And Chris wrote some good stuff in there. Like there was a sidekick in 1977 to this guy called the Fly. His name was Mercury. He was sort of a pudgy little guy, I think, who sort of hung around, and I don't know why, but they had a sidekick. I don't know why they just chose that for marketing purposes.
I think, if I recall what Tony Babinski told us, Gerry, he was some kind of small-time criminal who was a bit of a heavy, a bit of a bodyguard type, and he either sort of muscled his way in, or they thought we can use him. So they made up a ridiculous costume for him. And that's right. His family name was Mercurio. So they just made it superhero-like and made it Mercury. And he had his own costume, his own cape, and he would be the Fly's bodyguard when the Fly came out to a stadium to do a show.
Did his name have anything to do with his powers?
No, it was just this bodyguard, and his name was Joe. I think it was Joe Mercurio, and they just went, "Well, you're Mercury. You're not Joe Mercurio. You're Mercury. You Fly's sidekick." And when we brought the Fly back, I said, "We've got to have that, but let's make them actually somebody that actually contributes in a major way." And we made that person the apprentice to the Human Fly, which worked in really well with another modernization idea of Tony Babinski's, which would be that the Fly is a legacy. It's a character. It's a role in a crusade, if you like, and a tradition, like a Green Lantern or one of those type of characters that is the
Phantom, yeah.
So so the apprentice might be the logical person to step up if the fly gets injured or whatever.
And in this particular case, the Mercury is a female character, and actually, she's great. I mean, suddenly, instead of 2 dimensions, there's a 3-dimensional character there, and she's got her own secrets. And I'll tell you what, right at the end of without trying to spoil much, I won't spoil, but at the end of the graphic novel, you're still going to be asking yourself the question: there's something else there, with Mercury. Why is she there? Right.
She's more than just a one story arc character. You see some questions and some revelations and some big challenges for her and the Fly. And do they really know what each other is all about, or not really, or whatever? And you'll get some answers, but we've left it so this thing's, hopefully will hook people in and they go, okay, got to watch where that goes.
No, with all of the things that you've mentioned about how these characters are right now, Gerry, you mentioned about this being a franchise, and Chris, you said this is all the way back from 77. Did you have any were there any difficulties in like bringing a legacy character into modern times? Were you guys bogged down with the history of the character?
No, look, the Human Fly International guys have been very collaborative with us and allowed us to go, okay, what about we do something set here and do something set there? And there's no, I'll just put it this way. At this point in time, there's no really super detailed, restrictive timeline. There's plenty of room for us to fill in a gap and go, what about this time period? What about that time period? We got an idea that might work there. There's a couple of key things that are written in stone, but there's enough room, and the guys are fantastic, and we can come up with and go, what about this? And they're very responsive. And in fact, we've got Jim Kruger writing the art, which we got to plug, Gerry. It's on Kickstarter right now, and maybe you guys can flick over to that at some stage. And Jim had an idea, like whereas our story, first Territor, the trade paperback that's coming out, that's all set right now, or actually, set when it was published. Trudeau was still Prime Minister, and Trudeau's in the comic. Justin Trudeau was in our first issue. But Jim's story, this one you got on the screen now, Jim's idea was, what about over 4 issues, I do 4 different human flies? And we said, and we pitched that to the owners, and they approved it. And all the ideas were Jim's. Very clever idea, and it's a great. I mean, I think if we'd launched with a multi-generational thing, it might have been too confusing. So we've got one big story down of what today's Fly and today's Mercury is about, and now we can start to flick around and pick and choose from the history that you can almost call it the secret history of the Human Fly legend, and we'll use that however we see fit as we go along.
Yeah, that's it, and that was really the extra dimension that I was referring to, and so I'm glad, Sharif, for bringing that topic up, because it sort of made it was a good point to bring it up. The owners, I mean, they want to expand the Human Fly too. They're not just sort of I know Chris, for example, might have had, when he did Star Trek, for example, when he wrote a script for Star Trek, we talking to Paramount was a very interesting conversation in terms of how far you can go here, how far you can go there. But with this particular pair of dudes who own the franchise, they did want to expand it too. But at the same time, they throw their two bobs worth in every once in a while, and I think that's a good thing. And when we transitioned to a Dracula story with Jim Kruger at the helm, that required a little bit more conversation, but it was smooth. It was really smooth.
So just in regards to that, boys, quick question from me. So I've read the synopsis and that, and it's really cool how it talks about different periods and things like that. Are you planning on we've got, say, there's 4 periods and we're going to have a story for each period, but then that character itself, are you going to embellish on that further and maybe create like their own sort of ongoing story arc for those different eras?
Look, we've got the capability to do that. The next arc after this one is actually going to be a little bit of a spin again, because it's going to be in the near future. But now that we've opened the box of different timelines, different flies, if we want to go back and visit them again, we will. And look, in all honesty, it'll probably go down to reader interest and reader demand, as well as our own personal choices. And I'll be honest with you, we've even talked to the Fly guys about paperback novels about the human fly.
Oh, nice.
And some of the ideas, that's a great shot there on the screen, those 3 different costumes that Peter Lawson did. Beautiful stuff. We've talked about novels set in different time periods, and some of those novels might be the current fly, but some of those will be, what was the 1930s fly up to? What was, 1898 fly up to? All that kind of stuff. So, it's a nice, expansive universe.
Yeah, there's a lot of scope, isn't there?
The beauty is that where some people may have to say, okay, where can I go now? I thought I've done everything. Here it's how do I drill it down to what choice will I make? It's the opposite, and it's a problem I'm happy to have.
I mean, those designs you had on the screen a minute ago, that's one of the other fun things about it, is that the colours and the design of the 1977 Stuntman. So we've obviously decided there's different versions of that going on back in history, but we've been having fun playing with that. I mean, it's a nice coincidence, or maybe it wasn't a coincidence. I don't know, the 2 Rama Cherry brothers who created the Fly franchise in Canada, they've both passed away, but it's cool. He's got the colours of the Canadian flag. It's cool that there's almost a the white cross effect on the mask is almost like a heraldic shield. And so we think about that stuff obsessively. We play with that stuff. The little rocket on his belt. Now, originally, we've been told that the Ramacheri brothers wanted something to stick on his belt, and somebody drew a rocket, and they said, why has he got a rocket? Because a rocket flies. Now, here's the thing. If the fly's been around since 1776, there's no rockets. So what we believe is that rocket is originally an arrow. And the arrow relates to something very significant where that had a key influence on the Fly lineage. And it was about something falling to earth like an arrow. How's that for mysterious? But we've got we're building the legend up, and the other cool thing is if you can play in multiple time zones, there are some. I think Gerry, you touched on this in the article that you published today. Your article about the human fly you published. It means that various human flies can either get into a fight or team up with significant characters from history or historical fiction, not just Drac.
True.
Yeah, but that's in a sense that's a reflection of our branding. It's not just the human fly; it's our branding. I mean, we knew right from the beginning that if we wanted to find a niche in the international comic trade, and may I say, books and comics, well over 90% of our revenue comes from North America. Period. Right now. So what happens is that do we want to be a superhero-oriented comic producer? No, we don't. It's not. I mean, even though Chris has been involved with that sort of stuff for years and years and years, and has also written for Marvel and others. But in reality, it's not a niche that we want to play in because there's too many big boys in there. And also, what is it that we really like? What is it that we're really good at? And I'm a writer as well as I've published books and over 50 short stories, and I like horror, I like fantasy, I like mashups, I like where you mix up characters from reality with the fiction and other fictional characters from other mythoses. I love all that sort of stuff, and we know that a lot of other people like that stuff too. And that's what we're doing. That's what the human fly is transforming. Where he was he started off as a real person who was a stuntman. Then he became a street level superhero, daredevil, type character, if you want to call it that. We slightly extended that and made him 3-dimensional in issues 0 to 4, and now in volume 2, with 4 issues, the supernatural is coming in, where there's multi-generational legacies, where there's more mystery. This is the stuff that gets us excited. And I think we needed to do this. If we didn't do this, we may find ourselves stagnating against the bar that we've held fairly high on the stuff that I've just mentioned. That's the way I think.
And as Gerry said, IFWG Publishing is a speculative fiction publisher. It publishes science fiction, fantasy, and horror. So our plan with the comics was to publish science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And I guess The Fly was the exception, but we always knew we could go and kick the doors open and allow science fiction, fantasy, and horror to intermingle with that character. I mean, horror's a little bit interesting because horror's an emotion as well as often contains supernatural elements. We published a comic called Dark Detective Sherlock Holmes that I wrote, and that's a horror take on Sherlock Holmes. Now, is it supernatural? We play on the tightrope with that one. We don't let the reader have a conclusion one way or the other. Was that just a supernatural creature I just saw rip some guy's throat out, or is something else going on here? And that's sort of the the whole shtick with Dark Detective, but the atmosphere is pure hammer horror. So,
cool. Very cool.
Well, before we go into this Kickstarter, let's have a word from our sponsor, Comic Bookaroo. Comic Bookaroo, proud sponsors of Aussieverse for all your comic book needs. Graphic novels, hardcovers, omnibuses, single issues. Don't forget to pre-order every Sunday at Comic Bookaroo. Bookaroo, Australia's #1 online comic book store. We also want to remind people that the voting is still out, and you can still vote for the next couple of weeks or so for Aussieverse at the Comic Book Community Awards, where we have made it to 2 different categories as the finalists. So we need your support to get over that line and get us a trophy and make us feel like, we're doing something great. Now, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this Kickstarter. That sounded like a fantastic wrestling entrance.
Tell you what, it was really hard to find a soundtrack that sort of works with something as so specialized as what we just saw.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. I just hope it's free music and we don't get done for that. So let's take a look here. We need you to go to Kickstarter and type in The Human Fly. I'm sure that is enough to bring up this Kickstarter. If you're not sure how to do that, go to Google, type in Kickstarter, takes you to the website. Then you type in Human Fly, takes you to this. Now,
it's pretty easy, really.
22 days to go. So let's take a look at the fine print, the nitty gritty. So it is a 52-page graphic novel printed on 250 GSM cardstock cover and a 150 GSM glossy internal pages. This will be a high quality book for your collection, and there are 2 covers to choose from in this Kickstarter, the main version and a special foil version.
Ooh.
Now, bear in mind, this cover is currently a mock-up. There may be minor differences in the trade dress prior to printing. And Kruger, like you've mentioned his name a lot, and the dude did Earth X.
That's right, and he did with Alex Ross, and with Alex he also did Justice over at DC.
Well, I'm personally a huge fan of Earth X. I absolutely demolished that series when I was a kid, and I've read it so many times. So I'm already excited for this.
Gerry, why don't you talk about the reaction when Jim's script came in?
Jim gave us the overview of the 4 four issues, of course. That's a necessary bit right at the beginning. When he supplied the first issue, and this Kickstarter is for the first 2 issues together. That's why it gets 52 pages. And so we'll have another Kickstarter with the second lot of 2 issues. That makes 4 issues altogether, but two Kickstarters, 2 meteor-sized books. But in that issue 1, mind blown, masterclass in script writing. You've got 4 pages that were displayed there, but in all seriousness, I have not read a script like that for a very, very long time. The guy's a genius.
Yeah, that was a really great read. Pulled you in from the very beginning, and yeah, that was just a delight. And just a little footnote, I believe Mr. Kruger will be at Supernova in Adelaide in October and Brisbane in November.
Yes.
And I see a tier here where we will go into the tiers in just a moment, but there is a tier here where you can also get a print copy of Moon Goddess from our friend SK.
Absolutely. SK's been a fundamental part of this Kickstarter, and he does quite a few different things for IPI these days. And yeah, we were proud and privileged to be able to bring the Moon Goddess to an international audience, to comic shops, and it'll go as a book.
We love SK, man. He's
a very nice guy and a very clever and talented guy.
He is indeed. He is indeed. All right, let's take a look at how you can back this project. Let's do it live with me. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's back this project. Okay. So, will I get the $1,000 print gym session? Probably not for me. Probably not for me, but I can see, mate, it would be cool. It would be cool. But obviously for that price, yes, you do get 45 minutes with Jim Kruger, but you also get a whole hella bunch of rewards I am highlighting right there for your enjoyment. Obviously ships anywhere in the world, and it's a drawn in tier as well. So holy moly, that's the full shebang. Going down, let's start from the very beginning. We have the PDF version. If you want to dip your toes into the human fly, but you're not sure if you want to get the whole thing or not, get the PDF version, because that is the way that you can support the Kickstarter in the cheapest way possible. Next, we do have the print version if digital is not your thing. In this one, we have the print version of the Human Fly versus Dracula, as well as the PDF and trading cards of the Human Fly versus Dracula. That might be the goer, but let's keep going. We also have a what, guys?
Foil cover.
Shiny, shiny cover. And if you're a comic collector, you know that you are a human mosquito and you love the shiny covers. You are attracted.
Absolutely. And that shiny cover will not reflect the image of any vampires.
You can also get both covers, that is the foil and the standard edition cover. Or if you do want to get the IPI catch-up, check out this set of books that you can all grab in print, foil and PDF. Yeah, man. And you can also get the drawn in on its own if that's something that interests you as well. So let's see here.
The old drawn-in's actually becoming fairly popular now. And it's a great way to really celebrate, supporting a Kickstarter by having yourself included in the actual Kickstarter?
Well, we had a Kickstarter not long ago for another comic series that we've got that we're absolutely in love with, called The Matron, and it's sort of like 1970s homage serial killer, but with other elements like gentrification of the countryside and all that sort of stuff. And we had drawn in and also killed by, because it was a lot of killing. So you could either get yourself drawn in, but if you really want to, it costs a few extra bucks, you can get yourself killed, axe killed.
That's awesome.
Very, very popular.
Fantastic. All right. So what does the future hold for the Human Fly? If people back the Kickstarter now, what are they getting themselves in for?
They're getting a really exciting piece of work. And we talked about Jim, and I got to say, Peter Lawson's artwork is just freaking amazing. And Graham Jackson, a lot of you people probably know him. He's coloured a lot of different stuff here. So we've got a art team supreme. So you'll get a really decent, weighty reading experience. And this, we're hoping this is, we did series 1, which established the refreshed Fly brand for the world. This kicks it up a notch and says, hey, the whole Fly universe is open wide to phenomena and to time periods, whatever. And then the third series we've got in mind, which we'll figure out the shape of after we assess the success of 1 and 2. But we have a writer queued up, an American writer who's written for science fiction TV in the States. And we've got someone, another really experienced person. That would be the person we want to do the third arc. And look, I just probably worth a mention, we often mix up high-profile creators and lesser-profile creators because it gives people a leg up on the career ladder. Peter Lawson's he's better than 75% of the people drawing Marvel and DC stuff at the moment. Sorry, he is. But nobody knows who he is. Now, he'll be, he had a short story in issue 0, and we got a lot of great feedback about that. But when he does this entire series, we probably won't be able to afford him anymore because Marvel and DC will steal him. That's good. And
which is okay.
this book is for everyone on the planet. But if you're an Aussie, you will be supporting the home team, not just on an editorial level, but on an artistic level. Same with Graham, another great local talent. And if these guys, some of their stuff ends up in comic book stores internationally, well deserved, I say.
Actually, just to add a little extra to that, make that point, because that is what was just said is critical. It's so part of our DNA. We're Australian, and we want to showcase Australian talent. It's really as simple as that. I do that with the books, and I do that with the comics. We won't say no to Jim Kruger doing, it goes without saying. And Jim will lift all the other team up as well from a profile point of view. But the other point to make, really important point to make, is that we do Kickstarter. We love Kickstarter. We also are traditional comic publishers. When we finish doing the 2 Kickstarters, a certain amount of time later, those 4 issues are going to be split, and then they're going to go out to comic stores around the world. Ooh. Now, the difference between the Kickstarter and those comics is that those comics are just comics. That's all they are. And they're going to be great comics, and they're going to be loved. But with the Kickstarter, you just saw a list of what was there. we give some really juicy stuff, some really amazing stuff in there, and they become collectors. And in our experience, there isn't a strong overlap between people who buy from indie comics versus those who go to comic stores. There's a little bit of a disparity, not disparity, a separation, if you want to call it that. And part of the reason why we do the Kickstarter is to get that audience, but it's also because publishing comics is an amazingly expensive exercise, and it's not that we can't afford to do it, but we want to do more than one project at the same time, and that's tough. And Kickstarter helps us showcase Australian talent in multiple lots instead of a serial singular sort of spectrum.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When we started, in fact, Gerry and I said, no, we're never going to do crowdfunding, right? Because we thought it was perceived as possibly seen as a weakness that, oh, your company doesn't have enough cash to pay people and print. But so much has changed in the comics market, even in 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
That
absolutely.
The crowdfunding space has weeded out quite a lot of the rubbish that's gone. A lot of these fly-by-nights or people who never deliver, people have woken up and gone, well, I'm not going to waste my money on that. And instead, what is settling down now is a decent third channel. So we've got comic shops, we got bookstores, because we do bookstores with our trade paperback collections that don't buy from Diamond or Luna. They buy from big international book distributors. And I think we're about the only Aussie publisher that has a contract with one of those. So we do comic shops, we do bookstores, we do digital through Global Comics, and we looked at what was happening in crowdfunding, and we thought if we do it correctly, that is, as Gerry said, it's a separate channel. It's an additional separate channel. Some people just like to buy their comics via crowdfunding. We thought if we could put the right package together, a value and
now like Dynamite doing it as well. So
they're all doing it. They're all doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we thought, well, we can't ignore that channel. It's an important channel, but the product we push through that channel will be a little different to the same thing that comes through another channel. You're not going to package a whole bunch of different trading cards and options for direct market comics. It's too fiddly, and it wouldn't work. They just want one, floppy monthly comic and a trade paperback at the end. That's what they want. Bookstores just want a trade paperback. So we're catering to the different channels, and we're respecting the different channels.
But I should add that since we've teamed up with Ez, we've learned a lot about crowdfunding, and we're already in our second one now, and it's fun. I mean, it's a great community as well, and that really is a big factor too. I mean, that makes a difference to us. But I mean, we can do things that we just can't do in the bookstores and in the comic stores. Just as an example, those trading cards that you saw. No, we decided to go one step further. We've got between 4 and 8, depending on how many issues there were, trading cards for every single comic series we have ever produced. And so therefore, the 3 that are for the first 2 issues of The Human Fly Volume 2 represents number 46, number 47, and number 48. They're going to be numbered, limited number of printing, and we're going to say, guys, we're just going to hand out cards and let's see if it turns into a collector's thing or not. We'll just go that way. And you can't do that in bookstores. You can't do that in comic stores.
I think the other thing too, Gerry, is just from it like an end purchasers, the people who pay the money to do the crowdfunding and stuff. For guys like us, we get a real sort of sense of pride knowing that we've helped that project, and that not only have we got something physical, which is awesome, but we've helped our fellow Aussies or whoever it might be to actually hit that target to produce that product. It's pretty awesome to be able to do stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, and it's very much appreciated. I got to tell you. But as much as we know that sort of cultural attitude is there, Steve, we're very big. Gerry and I are quality nuts, right? We don't want to put anything out that is, more of a, they're having a go. No, we're putting stuff out that is got to be internationally publishable, standard. We don't want people to get it and go and open it up after it turns up in the mail and go, oh, it's all right, but, if I put it in a comic shop, I'd put it back on the shelf. No, we're quality. That was Gerry's attitude with 15 years of publishing science fiction, fantasy, and horror novels. It had to be quality. He would, and he still does, publish first-time authors who've never been published anywhere else. But if the quality ain't up there with the pros, with the international professionals, sorry, we don't do anyone any favours. We're not patting each other on the back here. It's got to be decent quality, and that's what we're all about. And that's a fun thing too. I mentioned before a book we're working on called They Call Me Midnight. That was published in a book I edited for Gerry called Dracula Unfanged, and it was a what-if universe of what if Dracula was an eternal menace to society, but in every story, it's not because he's a vampire. He's a threat for some other reason. And that story is a textbook example of our approach. We got some of the biggest names in horror around the world. We got Dacre Stoker, grandnephew of Bram Stoker, who wrote the New York Times bestseller Dracula sequel. We had Jim Kruger writing a short story for us. We had big names in there, but we had a sprinkling of Aussies and a couple of first timers, I think, fairly new. And it's that formula, but you don't get in unless the story's bloody good.
Mm.
So that's our thing. We never want people to think, they propped us up and we weren't up to it. It's got to be, a comic you could say, yep, this is as good as something Marvel and DC would publish.
Mm.
It's got to be. It's not fair otherwise. You're wasting people's time.
And
I think the other thing too from that is that, if you're going to release something that's subpar, then people are going to look at it and go, am I going to want to back the next one if this is the kind of quality that I'm getting? And it just affects your business.
Exactly. But yeah, people still do it. I'm sure you guys see examples every week.
Yeah, I mean the same thing applies in the actual traditional comic distribution network as well. I mean, you can to some extent, have these oscillations of quality, but they have to be oscillating very narrowly. Not, I mean, if you people remember you for your failures, they don't necessarily remember you for your successes. And so it's critical for us to produce quality, not only because we want quality, but because that's a critical requirement for our branding to grow. And I mean that's why we produce since I forget how many comics we've produced, but we've produced on average more than one a month internationally. In the beginning, we had a couple a month, only because just the way it was. But we tend to produce one comic a month, We can do up to 2. If we do more than that, we're a small outfit. I bet you $100, $1,000, $1 million that if we tried to produce 3 or 4 comics a month, you'll see an amazing drop in quality. It needs our attention.
Gerry grew his book company for nothing, and he did it slowly by quality, and that was the deal when we started the comics thing. Quality, and that's the hallmark. And if sales basically push us up, and we have the revenue and the demand to do more, we will, but only when we've taken on extra people to make sure we can support it. Slow, steady growth.
Yep.
Fair enough. All right, well, we'll end it here by saying 2 last questions. If I asked you blokes, who would you want the Human Fly to team up with in a comic, who would it be? Gerry, you go first.
Oh my God! Are you talking the 1977 or the today one?
We'll go with today, just to make it easier.
Okay. I'd like him to team up with Daredevil, and they can have arguments about their suits.
All right, I like that. What about you, Christopher?
Look, it'd be a toss-up between Batman, because you've got the classic tradition of somebody jumping around at great heights and no superpowers to save them. It'd be a cross between Batman, or what about the Phantom?
Oh, dude, you've sold me right there.
What about the Phantom? Because the Phantom also comes from a legacy. Okay, so they've got crucial differences. Especially the most obvious one is the Phantom has a tendency to be grounded in the African continent with occasional side trips to New York or whatever, but largely his adventures take place there. Whereas the Fly in our timeline is a globetrotter with roots, particularly in recent centuries, to Canada. But it would be very interesting to have those guys clashing back and forth against different time periods.
Well, I do like that answer. I'd probably select Batman though, just from a marketing point of view, because you could put Batman with a turd, and you know that comic is going to sell out like crazy.
Absolutely. Look, and Bo, if you can just fire off a quick email to DC, demanding it. And
I'm sure they're happy to share their major money spinners with anyone.
That's right. I might be able to beg my mate Mark Wade to see if he'll write it.
Wow. Okay.
I suspect he's got far higher priorities at the moment.
All right, last question for the night is the one that we ask everybody that comes onto Aussieverse, and that is, boys, if we turned around to you and we said, what is Aussieverse, what would your answer be?
I might go first. Look, I think it's a ground level, genuine sort of collective cultural place, a meeting of the minds of people who love the medium, who absolutely love this unique medium, which we all know. It's not cinema, it's not prose, it's its own cool thing. And we just want it to be looked at as that, not as a half-assed cousin of cinema or literature. No, it's its own legitimate thing.
All right, Chris.
My God, I was thinking in almost the same way. It's about collectivity. You can't be an individual with this stuff, this shit. You've got to talk to people about it. You've got to write in teams. You've got to have that communication with the right people to get things done. So for me, it's collectivity.
All right, Sharif, Steve, what do we reckon about those answers?
Oh, look, they're both really good.
I like it. Unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have fallen into the trap that everybody else does fall into, and that is that they try to go deep, they try to be sensitive, they try to be thoughtful, and instead, the answer is absolutely 100% incorrect. The right answer is Aussieverse is and always will be for life. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, IPI Comics. We will catch you next time. Anytime you want to come back on the show, you hit us up because it was an absolute pleasure having you on Aussieverse.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, very much appreciate it. And yeah, we'll come back anytime.
Yep.
We will catch you next time. Next week, FOC is back. That's right, FOC Weekly. And we have more guests, more segments, and we also may have the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire coming back at you. We will catch you next time for life.